doing, everybody? And happy Wednesday in the great state of Wisconsin. This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Today, I am joined here with Austin. Austin, how are we doing today?
We're doing good.
Doing good, as always. Today, we got a little bit more to cover there with Craig Counsell. Also, doing our Packers. We've reached the midway point, so we got to do our mid-season report. We're also going to be jumping into the Bucs pregame there. The college football playoff rankings did come out here this week, so we're going to be looking at that a little bit. Also covering last weekend's NFL scoreboard and any surprises that we had. Right away, though, we got to jump into the big storyline that was yesterday, and it still is today, and that is what happened with the Milwaukee Brewers and Craig Counsell. Everybody was baffled. I still don't know if I completely understand what the heck actually happened, but we heard it from Craig Counsell himself. He came out, and in an interview, they talked to him, and Craig went on to say they asked him, first question they asked him was, he said, my goal here is to say thank you to the Milwaukee community, and he had this to say to the first question. Many Brewer fans are hurt by your decision. What do you say to them? And Craig came back and he said, I think as I was going through this process, it became clear that I needed and wanted a new professional challenge. At the same time, look, I'm grateful to be a part of this community, and that's going to continue. Hopefully, because it has nothing to do with baseball, that part of it, I'm looking forward to being part of a new community and hopefully impact our community, well too. But as I went through it, it just became clear I needed a new challenge. What do we gather out of that? It was interesting. Basically stating that he hopes that everybody will understand at this point he wants to just move on, find a new place, and try to start it from the ground up. He's not really starting it from the ground up with Chicago. They have a pretty good team put together. What do you, when you hear that, what is your first initial reaction to that statement by Greg?
Yeah, I don't know, it sounds like he was trying to go around something. Not really. I mean, the new challenge thing, doesn't seem like there's really a new challenge by going to the Cubs. Like you said, they got some good additions already with Cody Bellinger. I mean, Ian Happ, like I said yesterday, they got Cody Bellinger, Ian Happ's been there. They got some pretty good players there. So, I mean, even though they weren't as good as the Brewers, I mean, they were one game or something away from making the playoffs. So they were right on the edge. I don't think the Cubs is really a new challenge. I think if he would have went to Cleveland, that would have been a new challenge, or some sort of team like that. But yeah, I don't really know how he answered that question. I mean, if it is, he said that, and I mean, it kind of sounds like he just wanted to move on from the Brewers. I mean, I can totally understand that. But overall, I mean, saying that it's a new challenge, it's a weird way to say that he wanted to move on if that's what he was getting at. I don't really know.
I thought it was interesting when, you stated there, it's like he was avoiding saying something. And I think we're going to see that a lot through this. I read through it a little bit, but I think we're going to see it a lot through this entire this interview that he had, as it seems like he's avoiding something. He's avoiding saying too much. And I really do think, because in the statement, I don't know if it's made later in the interview, I forgot, but Mark Ananasio said it came as a surprise to him. Like he didn't know what the heck was going on, that Craig was talking to the Cubs and all this kind of stuff. If the relationship was that well between Mark Ananasio and Craig Counsell and Matt Arnold and everything in between, Craig Counsell would have explained to them, this is what's going on. And then he would have gave them that second chance. Hey, the Cubs just offered me 5 years, $40 million. Do you guys have something back to that? Or, that kind of scenario. But he didn't. He didn't say a word. It's like one last F you to Mark Ananasio walking out the door was him basically just accepting this nobody knew he was talking to the Cubs, not a single person. And David Ross didn't know. I mean, it was a real shot to David Ross. In the same press conference that they announced he was being fired, they hired the same day. The same press conference they released, we fired and hired a guy. That's just that's truthfully kind of messed up, if you ask me. That's kind of messed up. But each their own. It worked out as it worked out. We aren't here to tell you, as if you're a Cubs fan or anything in between, that it was A-okay or whatever it is. But to me, messed up. But in that same sense, it's something is not right in this whole situation, because Craig Counsell didn't explain to Mark Anastasio when he was walking out something was, he was talking to the Cubs or anything. He left them in the dark. And I mean, one last phone call, basically, he called Mark and he said, "This is what's going on." And Mark Anastasio said, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, that was his reaction to it. "Are you kidding me right now?" Like, I don't know. It's like you said, something isn't being said in this entire statement here. So then he went on, and they said, "Realizing this is all still so new, do you plan to continue living in Whitefish Bay in the future?" And Counsell came back to say, "It's very brand new. In the near term, I don't anticipate anything changing for me in that regard." What I thought was messed up was a lot of vandalism that happened to, like, I saw Craig Counsell, he has a field in Whitefish Bay that has his name on it, and somebody went and vandalized the sign. You can be upset. I completely understand that a fan can be upset. But come on. I mean, there's being upset, and then there's vandalizing something, or to that extent. That is a different case. You can even, if he comes back to American Family Field, you can boo him if you want from the crowd. That's how sports fans do it. We don't go out, I mean, I don't speak for everybody, but we don't go out and vandalize crap to try to prove our point. I mean, we already complain about vandalism going on in big cities and everything like that, and then you double back and you do it as a sports fan just because a guy left. I tell you what, if I was going to make double the salary a year to go somewhere else, I'd go somewhere else. Because you're looking out for yourself at that point. You cannot tell me as a Brewer fan, if you knew the two situations, you knew there was a better chance for you in another situation, and also more money, you're going to turn it down. If you can tell me straight to my face you would turn it down, you are a liar. That is plain and simple. I mean, plain and simple. As much as my hate runs deep for the Chicago Cubs, it's a business. Whether you're managing the Cubs, you're managing the Brewers, it doesn't matter. It's a business. You're here to do your job, make money. It's baseball at the end of the day. That's simple as it is. And these guys, I mean, if I played in the MLB and I got drafted in the MLB, do you think I'm going to tell the Cubs no if they call me and say, "We want you to be our starting center fielder"? No way. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that Craig Counsell made the best decision for himself, and it kind of sucks to see what is going on as repercussions for that from fans who are just a little bit too over the top with this whole scenario right now. But he went on to say, off of that, and the question was, the shock in this isn't so much that you left the Brewers, but you left the Brewers for the Cubs of all teams. Can you explain your thinking? And Craig Counsell went on to say, in looking at my decision, you're considering a number of things, and the challenging part of the industry is that there's one job in 30 places in 30 different cities, and me still preserving what I think is a great situation family-wise. I was able to do that, yet also get another professional challenge, but the proximity made this one attractive. He stayed close to home. We knew that's what Craig Counsell wanted to do. He wanted to stay close to home. So when you think of that with Craig Counsell, it seemed like the Mets were out. The Padres weren't a possibility. The Astros were too far. And, I mean, you look at any other team that apparently could have used the manager, too far away. So you look at the Twins, the Brewers, and the Cubs or White Sox, basically. Those are your teams, your possibilities there. He picked to stay close to home. I mean, that's what I take out of that. I mean, I can't really take anything against the guy for making a move like that. He went on to talk about there, that said, how difficult was it ultimately to pull the trigger and make the move considering how you've been the ultimate Brewer lifer? And Counsell went on to say, yesterday was an emotional day. I was sad at first, then happy, then I was crying, then I was laughing. So I went through it all. It's all the things that make it a really full day. So that's the intimacy of it. I mean, there were a lot yesterday. I understand that this decision has affected a lot of people, and I take that very seriously. And of course, that went into the equation. Basically looking at that, he went through it all. He went through it all, like you said. Every emotion you could possibly think of, he went through in making this decision. And like I talked about yesterday, I don't see Craig Counsell as a liar. I don't think he's going to lie to my face. I don't think he's going to tell me this big white lie to try to make me feel better. I do believe Craig Counsell made an emotional decision, and he made a decision that was best for him and his family and what he thought moving forward. You can't hold that against the guy.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the MLB's a business, so I mean,
it's a hard business.
It's a hard business. You always hear that about when players get traded, free agency, all that. Well, same can go for coaches too. So it's just a business, man, and it sucks. It sucks for some people, but I mean, Craig Counsell had to do what's best for him. Yeah, like you said about, I didn't chime in about the vandalism stuff, but I'll say that I'll say my piece right now. I mean, that's just Wisconsin fan like to hear that. It's kind of unmoral, and it's tough to see because obviously Craig Counsell's done so much for the city of Milwaukee and the Brewers organization. So, I mean, for him to get a little bit of hate like that, I mean, it's unethical, I should say. I mean, it is tough, but yeah, all in all, MLB's a business, so it's all about money.
Yep, and it's about doing what's best for you and what is going. I mean, it's about money, but it's about championships too. If you're not going to win a championship, what the heck's the point on doing it? Craig Counsell could have stayed the manager of the Brewers. He could have signed a 10-year contract. If he would have never made it to a World Series, then what? Then what's the point? And I was baffled looking at these people who are making posts and everything like that the Brewers are better off without Craig Counsell. He's a terrible postseason manager, just all around terrible. It was, and I looked at him all day, and I was seeing different people. Are you freaking nuts? If you can honestly, look back at the Brewers team. You look at this even last season against the Diamondbacks. The Brewers had 17 freaking base runners against the Diamondbacks in Game 1. I'm pretty sure it was 17. 12 to 17, somewhere in there. Just ridiculous. And you can only muster across a couple runs? Are you freaking kidding? You think that's Craig Counsell's fault? You're nuts. You're absolutely freaking nuts if you think that's Craig Counsell's fault. He gets crap. He gets crap in his lineup, and he's just expected to go make... he's getting oranges, and he's getting expected to make lemonade out of it. That's basically what they expect out of Craig Counsell day in and day out. You watch him in the dugout, I constantly said it, and I really believe it. That dude was one of the most stressed out guys in America. You watch him down there, he was like constantly rubbing his head like he had a migraine. And I had a migraine watching these Brewers hitters at times too. He couldn't do anything more. What was he supposed to do within the realm of him as a manager? Nothing. All managers make mistake moves. They put a pinch hitter in when they shouldn't. They put a bullpen arm in when they shouldn't. They pull a starter too early. Every manager does it. But Craig Counsell got put under the microscope for that. 1-9 in his last playoff appearances or whatever the stat was. Boo freaking who. Look at the teams he put in there. Look at the teams he got to the playoffs with. And you tell me where in that lineup there was somebody who is going to make a difference. Because you look at the Diamondbacks, when they win on this World Series run, every hitter in that lineup, they contributed in some way, shape, or form. Look at the Rangers. How'd they get to the World Series? The lineup got hot. Brewers didn't get hot. They lacklustered in that entire playoff series. Year before that, didn't make the playoffs. Year before that, same thing. Made it to the playoffs. They scored one run against the Braves in the playoffs there. They suck. It's just plain and simple. Nothing more than he can do as a manager you got to look higher than that. If you want to blame Craig Counsell, I guess you can look at his ass as he walks down to Chicago and potentially puts them on the map again, puts them at the top of the NL Central, and whatever he does with them. I know Cub fans are excited, and they're excited for a good reason. You guys got one heck of a manager down there in Chicago now with Craig Counsell. That's what I know. He is a good manager. I wouldn't say he's extremely great, but he's a good manager. He's a solid manager who makes pretty darn good in-game decisions. Sometimes, like I said, managers make mistakes, do the wrong thing. We know that as fans. We watch the games constantly. We see the crap. We're like, why'd you do that? Why'd you make that move? It's a business, like you said, and in this side of the business, it sucks to see a guy like Craig Counsell go. And if you don't think so, please go to the Facebook page and let us know why. And we can answer you back. We can let you know why we think that you're wrong, because that makes our day. We love to be able to get some controversy. But moving on with it, Craig Counsell went on to say they asked him about what do you think your legacy will be with the Brewers? And he said, look, I'm grateful for my time here. My connection to the people doesn't change in my eyes. I have developed beautiful, strong relationships, really, that if anything have strengthened during the emotional time period, and those relationships will last forever. And that's your legacy to me are your relationships. And so those mean the world to me. And they're strong and deep, and I'm proud of those. That's what meant everything to me in the phone calls with players yesterday. That's what's important to me. The rest, it's just kind of down the line. So he went on to say after that, they asked him, other than the proximity, what else do you like about your new situation? Counsell went on to say, it's a challenge to me with an organization that is very much in good place and is just trying to do special things. So that part of it certainly is exciting and alluring. And it's a challenge. It's going to be hard. It's scary because change is scary. But sometimes you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and that makes it exciting. Interesting. That's interesting. He keeps bringing up the challenge thing, the challenge over and over again. Makes you wonder what the challenge he's really thinking of. He went on to say, they asked him, have you allowed yourself to think ahead to next May 27th when the Cubs come to American Family Field for the first time? And he said, I'll give you another shot at asking the same question when he comes back. And he said, then they went on to say, when you called Mark Ananasio on Monday morning, was it strictly to tell him you were leaving? And he said, yes, we obviously had conversations before that. From what Mark said to what Craig said, we're hearing two different stories of what's going on. He said, then they asked him how important was it for you to reset the bar for managerial salaries in the major leagues. And he said, look, I just wanted the market to decide, that's it. So, interesting there that, he did state the entire time that he wanted to change up the market for managers, and he did. He definitely did. He's got a huge salary there now with the Cubs. I did see he actually makes more than what Ozzie Albies does as a all-star second baseman for the Braves. So that was quite interesting to see. And then they did ask him at the end, can you address whether your relationship with management or ownership had become more strained at all over the past few seasons? And he goes on to say, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the case at all. I think highly of Matt Arnold. I think highly of David Stearns, and I think highly of Mark. Mark was incredibly graceful on our last phone call together. I don't have any hard feelings. They had to make a decision, and I had to make a decision. That's it. Highly graceful in the last phone call when Mark Ananasio comes out and he tells us, basically just completely bashes Craig Counsell, telling him that Craig lost us as a community and blah, 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 blah. And like you said earlier, there's a lot of things happening behind the walls at American Family Field that we are not hearing about right now.
This makes Mark Ananasio look like the bad guy. I'm not going to lie. You hear Craig Counsell talk, he's like, he talks good about Ananasio. I mean, on the flip side, you have Ignacio talking about Craig Counsell on bashing him, talking bad on him about like a little bit there. It doesn't. I mean, all in all, it does not look good for the Brewers organization when your owner's talking down on one of your best managers that you probably had ever, arguably, and when you have Craig Counsell talk so highly of him, saying that he had a good phone call with him. I mean, I feel bad for Craig Counsell that I mean there has to be something underlining there. That's all I can say. I mean, if you have Craig Counsell saying that he had a good phone call and then Anastasio saying bashing down him, I mean, one of them's got to be right. So, I mean, there's got to be something there that we're not hearing, and who knows? It could come out, but I feel like a lot of the times this stuff just stays hidden under the rug, swept under the rug.
I agree. I 110% agree. Something is going on behind the scenes at American Family Field. David Stearns leaves, Craig Counsell leaves. Something's going on, and I do hope we hear about it. I hope somebody explains it to us, because right now it's a mess. It is a complete, utter mess. I just wish David Stearns would talk, because David Stearns doesn't need to have ties back to the Brewers. I wish that he would come out and say what the problem is, because we know there's a problem. We can see there's a problem. And yet we don't hear anything about it. And I hope the truth comes out eventually, because that is going to be something interesting right there. But the Brewers got to move on. And we're going to keep you guys updated on roster moves and managerial role right now, because I think right now they're talking about Pat Murphy. I did see that they were also looking at Ricky Weeks. I saw Ricky Weeks was a potential candidate for the managerial role. Also, I did see Don Mattingly. I think he got moved up in the Toronto Blue Jays organization, so I don't think Don Mattingly will be an option anymore. I did see also Dodgers first base coach Clayton McCullough, and then Troy Snicker, hitting coach, and Jose Espada of the Houston Astros. I've seen them all as options there. Potential guys that they think the Brewers will be looking at here pretty soon in their managerial role. But I think it's up to Pat Murphy first. I think they're interviewing him first, bench coach for the Brewers, and seeing how that goes. Maybe just like the Craig Counsell happenings, we're going to get a surprise. Maybe they're going to swing David Ross and say, David Ross, Craig Counsell just took your job with the Cubs. Maybe you come up to the Brewers and take his job. I don't know. I mean, this is the most surprising sports story I've heard in a while in Wisconsin sports. I mean, we're used to the Packers not making moves. We're used to the Brewers not making moves. So if they made a move, it would surprise me. Right now, this is the most surprising story I've heard in Wisconsin sports in a very long time. This is huge, and we're gonna be covering even more. If any more news comes out on it, we're gonna be the first ones to tell you all about it. We hope that some news comes out behind the scenes, because we want to see what the heck is going on at American Family Field. But with that, we're gonna jump over to the Packers. We want to do a mid-season report card for the Packers here. So, starting out, we're going to be looking at the offense for the Green Bay Packers. We want to give the offense, we're going to do the offense, we're going to do the defense, we're going to look at special teams, and then we're going to flip over and look at some of the key players on the team and give them grades versus how we feel they have produced for the Packers so far. Right now, looking at the Packers offense so far this season, they are sitting at, got to get my stats here to load in for me. Right now on the season, they're sitting at 143 first downs. Third down conversions, 45 for 108. Fourth down conversions, they're sitting 8 for 15. Total offensive yards, 2,400 yards so far on the season. Looking at their offense, they've had 479 plays, average yards 5. Total rushing yards, 803. their rushing plays versus average yards, 200 rushing plays for an average of 4 yards a carry. Passing right now, they're sitting at 1,734 yards. They've taken 18 sacks, so not good there. 18 touchdowns they've scored on the season here. Their turnover ratio is sitting at -2. So when I look at this, they've actually only scored 17 touchdowns on the offense. They do have one defensive touchdown on the season. So they have 17 touchdowns as an offense so far this season. When I look at the stats for the offense for the Packers and I'm watching what they're putting out there week by week, I am looking, so right now, looking at their point totals, you look at the game like Broncos, Raiders, Vikings, all those games, 17 points and below. Their highest scoring output of the season so far was 24 points they scored against the Falcons. Or no, 38. 38 points against the Bears. We'll give them a little bit there against the Bears. 38 against the Bears. Other than that, 24 points against the Falcons in a loss and 20 points against the Rams in a win there. If I had to put my grade for the offense right now, I'd be sitting at a solid C minus. I think I'd be looking at a C minus. I'm not quite dropping them to a D. They could be a D plus. They're hovering at a C minus, D plus. I just don't think I've seen it yet. I don't think I've seen any kind of offense that I could walk out on the field and say, I believe in that offense. I believe they can score me points. I don't yet. I haven't been able to say that yet, that I trust this offense to be able to put up a score when they need to. If they get behind 7-0, I can't promise that they're going to go down on their next drive or two and be able to score. And that's why I'm hovering C minus, D plus with this Packers team right now. I just don't trust. I haven't seen anything out of the offense so far that really puts me over the top or even above average right now. I think they're a below average offense. So where are you leaning right now with this Packers offense?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there on the C minus, D plus, right on the edge there. I mean, like you said, you look at their games, and besides the Bears and a couple other games that they scored over 20, I mean, they just struggled. They're a below average offense. When you compare them to a team with probably like an A plus, I'd say the Dallas Cowboys, Eagles. I mean, they have some. Those are probably the two best. Even the Ravens. You compare them, and you compare the two teams, and it's just the range is just so far in between them. So, like you said, yeah, C minus, D plus is probably probably a decent grade that I would also go with there.
Yeah, definitely. They are a struggling offense, as we saw in the stats there. Haven't really got the run game going so far this season. The pass game is iffy at best. And, I mean, you look at their third down conversions on the season, 45 for 108. They're not even 50% on third down. That's a rough stat to look at there. But, I mean, we like we've talked about last week, like we're going to keep preaching. At this point, we just want to see something. We want to see improvement, because if you aren't seeing improvement, something needs to change there. Whether it's in the quarterback room, whether it's whoever's calling the plays, somebody else needs to call plays. Whatever it is, something needs to change there on that offense. Looking over at the defense, this is the one that gets me, because I don't like Joel Berry as a defensive coordinator. I don't. But I look at the defense for the Packers. Total first downs against this defense, 160. Which, looking at the Packers, 143, seems like it's not good. But at the same time, 160, that's not a lot. That's not a lot on the season there. First downs, rushing, they've given up 62, passing 84, by penalty 14. Third down conversions. The defense is, on third down, 45 for 116. That's not bad. That's actually a pretty good stat right there. They are holding teams to 3-and-out or whatever it is there. So that's good right there. Fourth down conversions, 9 for 14. The Packers' rush defense, not so good. They're not a very good rush defense, and I think a lot of those fourth downs are coming fourth and short, giving up that little first down play. Total offensive yards given up, 2,561. They have 992 rush yards against them, 1,569 passing yards. They've sacked the quarterback 20 times, so pretty good stats there. They've only given up 16 touchdowns on the season. 16. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. The Packers' defense hasn't been terrible. You look at their season, I mean, it also contributes to they haven't played anybody that great. Bears, Falcons, Saints, Lions were good. Raiders, Broncos, Vikings are okay. Rams, without Matthew Stafford. They haven't played anybody great, but they've done their job when they had to. I'm putting the defense at a B. I want to say B minus. I'm putting the defense at a B minus. I don't think they're a dominant defense. I don't think they're a terrible defense. I think they're right in between. I think without Joel Berry and somebody else calling the defense, I think they get better. I really do. I think that improves that defense a heck of a lot. I think if they could stay healthy on the defensive side of the football, I think also that's a huge key to them. Right now, they are without Eric Stokes yet. He hasn't really been back. He got back for one game, got hurt again. So we haven't really seen Eric Stokes. We can't keep Campbell and Quay Walker on the field at the same time. It seems like when one of them's hurt, the other one's out there. When the other one's hurt, the other one's out there. You can't keep them both out of the field. You now lose Rasul Douglas, but Carrington Valentine did play a pretty good game in Rasul Douglas's after the trade there. So that's a promise. We haven't seen Lucas Van Ness. I still have hope in Lucas Van Ness. I don't think he's a complete bust yet, but we haven't seen him completely form into what he's going to be. People said the same thing about Rashawn Gary when he first came in. They thought he was going to be terrible. Now look at him now. I mean, he just got a big old contract, so he's doing A-okay. Devontae Wyatt, actually impressive. I think Devontae Wyatt is an impressive D tackle in there along with Kenny Clark. I think the defense has got a lot of playmakers on it, and I don't think Jair Alexander's healthy. I really do think he's pushing through something right now. Because the Jair Alexander that I remember from last season isn't the guy I'm watching this season. He seems to be a step behind. He seems to be struggling to keep up with receivers. Last year we saw him shut down Justin Jefferson like it was nothing. And now this year, all of a sudden, he's struggling with receivers left and right. I think something is still going on in his back. I think he's still got issues. So hopefully that gets straightened out. But I really do think, and don't hold out on Colby Wooden, defensive tackle that they got from Auburn last year in the draft here. I think he's got a lot of promise too. I think this defense has got a lot of promise. I just think they're under bad leadership there in the defensive room. So I'm going to stick with a B for the defense right now for the Packers. They haven't been tested, and I think, you have this stretch here where you're going to have the Steelers, the Chargers, the Lions, and the Chiefs. I think that's going to tell us what we need to know about the defense right there. They went through the easy part of their schedule. The defense they didn't look terrible. Lions put up 34 on them. They ran the ball all over them. The Falcons put up 25. But besides that, you look at Vikings put up 24. Other than that, you held the Saints to 17 points. You held the Raiders to 17. You held the Broncos to 19. You held the Rams to 3. So all games that, the Packers were right there and the offense just couldn't pick up the slack. So that's where I'm at with the defense. I put them at a B right now.
Yeah, B minus, B. That's a good grade. Also, when you take a look at it, defense has a lot of bright spots for sure compared to the offense. They have a lot of good talent, like you said, but also when you have an offense that isn't scoring, it's tough for a defense to just keep going out there and trying to stop another team from having points, especially when your offense is going out there 3-and-out, 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 3-and-out. And, the offense hasn't been able to sustain. They did a decent job against Rams, but besides like some other games, they haven't sustained a whole lot of drives. So when you ask your defense to keep going out there and trying to stop, I take a look at the time possession. Um, I guess the Packers have averaged 28 and their opponent averaged 31, so it's kind of even. But a lot of times when you're watching the game, it seems like the other team has the ball a whole lot more than the Packers do. So I say the defense is doing a good job, but there's still a lot. Well, yeah, like you said, they're going to get tested these next few games when they play. Chargers have a really good offense in Austin Eckler, so right there, the Russian defense is going to get tested, and then the Lions, they got Dave Montgomery. The Lions are a pretty good built team, and then they had all the big daddy of them all, Kansas City Chiefs. So right now I'd probably put them at a B with you there, B minus on the edge there maybe, but definitely going to get tested. So we'll see if they can power through that schedule, and they're going to need help from the offense, who's sitting at what we said, C minus, D plus there. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The defense, they're going to be tested here coming up, and we might have a different grade for them at the end of the season here. But I really do think a change in leadership, I think, would change this defense, and it would change my grade to a B plus. Honestly, I think that would take this defense a little bit further into being that much more dominant. I think they have that ability. I just think they're under bad leadership. So with that, we got to get to special teams. Special teams so far this year, there's only 4 guys we really got to cover. Keyshawn Nixon, 8 games, 14 attempts on kickoffs. He's got 363 yards, averaging about 25 yards a kickoff or a kick return. 51 was his long there. Jaden Reed, he hasn't attempted any on kickoffs yet. Keyshawn Nixon is sitting at 7 attempts on punts, and it's 74 yards. Jaden Reed, 7 attempts, 80 yards there on punts. Anders Carlson, the biggest question mark leading into the season because of his struggle in training camp kicking field goals. 11 for 13 on the season so far, 84%. His longs from 52. He's 3 for 3 from inside 29 yards, 6 for 6 from inside 39. 0 for 2 from 40 to 49. He's 0 for 2. But 50 plus yards, he's 2 for 2. So that's a weird stat right there. 15 made extra points in 15 attempts. That's not bad right there. Daniel Whelan, punter for the Packers. 33 punts on the season for 1,580 yards. His long is 68. He's got about 7 inside the 20. Touchbacks, he's got 4. Fair catches, he's got 12. I'm going to put the Packers special teams at a B. B minus, right in there. They aren't. Anders Carlson's really not done anything terrible. His 2 missed field goals came from 40 to 49 yards, which is weird that he's hit 2 plus 50-yarders, 50-yard plus field goals. He's hit 2 of them, but he's 2 for 2 from there, but 0 for 2 from 40 to 49. That's kind of a weird stat there. But other than that, 15 for 15 on extra points. Sometimes that's the hardest one to make, and he's been hitting those. So I'm putting him at a B minus. The kick returning haven't done anything crazy yet, but I'm going to stick with a B minus there.
I'd say they're probably a pretty average special team unit. Besides Carlson being able to go 15 for 15, I don't really like watching punters punt the ball a whole lot, even though, I like watching Pat McAfee. I like watching the Pat McAfee show, so I have a little bit of respect for specialists. But, whenever a punter's out there, it's not usually a good thing unless they run a fake and they get it. So, and then, like you said, Keyshawn Nixon, he hasn't really done a whole lot. I feel like we had really high expectations out of him, especially from what he was able to do last year. And this year he had 1 return over 50 yards, but besides that, it's been a whole lot of nothing. I think they're just a C. Maybe a C plus with Carlson there, being able to make some kicks with that. What was it? They gave up their special unit gave up a touchdown too out there one time, maybe once or a couple times too. So, as a whole, like kickoff and all that stuff. I mean, it's not. Oh, I think they gave up a punt return against the New Orleans Saints. That was. So I think they're just an average special teams unit. So I'd probably give it a C, maybe a C plus if you want to count a solid 15 for 15 on extra points. But I mean, I was hoping that we could get a couple more extra points out of Anders Carlson, but our offense just doesn't score a whole lot. So
yeah, we're sure getting a lot of that right now with this Packers team. But with that, that is about all we have for the Packers. Now we got to jump into Austin's fact of the day here. Here we go.
did you know on this day in 1966, President Lyndon B. Johnson signs antitrust immunity to AFL NFL merger? Who knew? Well, probably some people knew.
And that was Austin with our fact of the day. That was an interesting fact there for everybody out there on this day. With that, though, we got to jump over into the Bucks because the Bucks have a game tonight at home. They're going to be taking on the Detroit Pistons from the Pfizer there at 7. This game right now, looking at the matchup predictor, they are favored heavily. 84% the ESPN matchup is giving them to win this game against the Detroit Pistons. Looking at it right now, Jaden Ivey is out for this game on the injury report for the Pistons. Also, Joe Harris, Jalen Duran, and Alec Burks also out for the Pistons. Middleton, we expect him to still be on that minutes restriction for the Pistons. Looking at some of the key players to watch out for in this one, Cade Cunningham for the Pistons. Right now he's averaging about 22 a game for the Pistons on the season here. Duran's averaging about 11.5 rebounds per game. He's a game-time decision. I made a mistake there. He's not out. Game-time decision. He's averaging about 11.5 rebounds per game right now. Cunningham's averaging about 7 per game. Giannis leads the Bucks in scoring and rebounds. 26 points a game, 9 rebounds per game. Damian Lillard with the assist. In this one, what do we hope to see out of the Bucks in this one against the Pistons?
I'd say just getting their bench going again, kind of like what they did against the Nets. See that improvement out of them, improvement out of some of their players on some of their starters, Beasley specifically, but overall, I mean, Pistons are not a very good team. We should be able to especially with all their injuries and the guys that they have out, they're kind of seems like they're the same old Pistons. We should be able to run through these guys, I'd assume. I don't see like doesn't seem like they have anyone that can guard Giannis, and maybe Cade Cunningham can guard Damian Lillard. But I mean, if they play like how they played against the Nets are way better competition than the Pistons, I say. And if our bench can play like they did against the Nets, the Bucks should be able to take care of this one.
Yeah, I agree with you there on that one. This should be a good game for the Bucks to try and figure some things out. Try to get all the pieces put together here moving forward. They haven't seemed to be flowing consistently on the season so far, and I think this could be a good game to do it. So, like I said, tonight, Bucks, 7 o'clock start for that one. Should be a good game, though. I still expect a good game between the Pistons and the Bucks there, but hopefully the Bucks show us a lot there. But with that, we're going to jump over into the college football playoff rankings. Right now, nothing really changed at the top. Ohio State coming in there as our 1, Georgia in our 2, Michigan in our 3, Florida State at the 4, Washington at the 5, Oregon at the 6, Texas, then Alabama. Ole Miss actually moved up 1. They made it to our 9 spot now. Penn State moved up. to our 10 spot. Louisville moved up 2 spots to the 11. Oregon State moved up 4 spots up to 12. Tennessee moved up 4 spots, got up to 13. After Missouri took a drop, Oklahoma, LSU, and Notre Dame all took drops in the rankings there. So, looking at this ranking now, nothing really changed at the top. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State. Do you still like that top 4 after watching what we did? We saw Ohio State struggle against Rutgers. Georgia pulls off a big win against Missouri, who is number 14 in our rankings here. Rutgers doesn't even touch the ranking. I look at that. I honestly look at that. We talked about it last week in the previous rankings that Ohio State was kind of just getting by in games. Didn't seem like they were really doing a lot. We watched Michigan blow teams out. We watched Georgia, they take care of their business. Ohio State struggles to get by struggling teams. So with that, what do you think of that top 4 right now and the way it's shaken out right now?
Yeah, I think for one, Georgia should be above Ohio State, no matter where Ohio State ranks within that top 4. I mean, Ohio State struggled. I mean, they were losing to a Rutgers team that, I mean, some would say is below at. I mean, they're a pretty bad team overall. I mean, not a team that you think would compete with Ohio State, and they were losing them at halftime. And even if you look at Ohio State versus Wisconsin, some of these lesser teams, I mean, seems like they're kind of struggling. And then you look at Georgia, and they just beat. I mean, they didn't blow out Missouri by any shot, but Missouri was a number 12 ranked team. So you see that they kind of get a good win on their resume right there. I think you got to boost Georgia above Ohio State. I mean, Georgia's got to go back to number 1. I don't think Ohio State's proven anything to be that number 1 spot. All this whole year, college football rankings and then the AP top 25, they're two different things, just a little bit. They're a little bit tweaked. But all year, I mean, Georgia's been above Ohio State, and then once college football rankings come out, Ohio State's above Georgia for some reason, and I still don't see what they have done to prove to be above Georgia. So that's just an interesting thing there. And then Michigan once again blows. I don't know who they played, but they blew out their opponent there. So them at 3. I mean, you could probably argue to put them above Ohio State too, considering what Ohio State's doing to these teams and what Michigan's doing to these same teams that they're playing. And then Florida State's kind of just there. I mean, I don't really know what they're doing, but I mean, I guess they can stay at 4 for now. See what Washington does. Clemson got a pretty good. I don't know if Florida State played. Oh yeah, Florida State did play Clemson. So, but depending on like what happens to Florida State and Washington in that, in their championship games, I mean, either one could definitely just sneak in. And depending on how the voters do for Ohio State versus Michigan when that happens, one could get knocked out completely if both Florida State and Washington win out and win their conference championships. I think you can argue that those two can both be in over Ohio State or Michigan if one of them has a loss, even if they are very good. I mean, if you're keeping out an Alabama team that has one loss and they don't win I guess if they would lose the conference championship, then they'd have 2 losses. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. There's still a lot of football left to be played, but I would put Georgia over Ohio State, and then after that, the rest can kind of stay the same. But Georgia's proven more to me than Ohio State has, especially after this last week.
Well, and you can make the case for Washington too, because you look at Florida State; they're 9-0, but their best win came opening night against LSU, who is still ranked. They won 45-24. Clemson doesn't look like a great win anymore. Duke dropped out of the rankings, so Duke doesn't look like a great win anymore by Florida State. So Florida State, I mean, looking at their schedule, other than that, I mean, Southern Miss, Boston College, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Wake Forest, and then Pitt. All teams that aren't great. They don't have any more resume boosters on their schedule here. Miami, then North Alabama, then they play Florida. So no real resume boosters there for Florida State. Looking on the flip side of it, if you look at Washington, they beat Oregon, they beat USC, and if they beat Utah in this upcoming week here, they take care of their business with Oregon State. You make the case for Washington to get in there ahead of Florida State, possibly ahead of a one-loss Big Ten team like Ohio State or Michigan. It's a mess right now. I mean, there's a lot of – it's hard to say who should be in or not. Right now, I do believe, though, I would take Washington in there over Florida State just because of looking at the schedule.
I feel like this is the most even a playoff field has been in a while. I mean, you don't look at one team and think, oh, these guys could win it out and destroy their competition. I mean, this seems pretty even. A lot of these teams have decent resumes and a lot of really good competition played. So, I mean, yeah, it's interesting to see how this is going to unfold as these weeks go by and who gets in at the end of the day and who doesn't. It's going to be some hearts are going to be broken, and that's usually how it goes. But honestly, I would be mad if Ohio State doesn't ever go into the playoffs just because I don't like Ohio State. Just because they're good.
No, and I agree with that. And, I mean, you could see a mess unfolding there. I mean, you look at SEC championship game. If Alabama beats Georgia, if they both make it, Alabama beats Georgia, now you have two one-loss SEC teams. If Ohio State loses to Michigan, you have an undefeated Michigan, but a one-loss Ohio State team there. Washington undefeated right now. If they were to stumble and they were to lose a game here, lose their championship, they have a loss. Florida State, Clemson's, I mean, getting a little bit better, so maybe you see a Clemson team be able to hang with Florida State. It's honestly, it could unfold really fast where there's a mess and a huge mess, and we will not be able to say, I am glad that we're going to a 12-team playoff any quicker, because I think that is going to help a lot with this ranking here. But with that, that's about all we got for the rankings for the week here. We're just waiting for this upcoming weekend here to get a little bit more into it. But we got to check out last week's NFL scoreboard. So we had the Steelers beating the Titans on Thursday night. Chiefs beat the Dolphins 21-14 there in Germany. That was a pretty good game right there. The Chiefs got out early and took care of business. Vikings got the win over the Falcons. Dobbs showed up there for the Vikings late and actually looked quite impressive for the Vikings. I thought Dobbs played a great game. Browns beat the Cardinals, as expected, 27-0. Packers beat the Rams. We already went through that. Commanders took care of the Patriots 20-17. Saints beat the Bears 24-17. Ravens took care of the Seahawks. I thought that was a surprising final score. I did pick the Ravens to win, but 37-3. That was an impressive game. And Lamar Jackson only went for 187 yards through the air there. So that was kind of an impressive stat to see on a 37-3 finish. Looking down the line there, Texans, C.J. Stroud for the Texans goes for 470 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns, an impressive showing by C.J. Stroud in that one. Colts beat the Panthers 27-13. Raiders took care of the Giants 30-6. Eagles got the Cowboys 28-23. 2 plays to find that one. Dak stepped out of bounds there on the 2-point conversion, and then a knee was down outside on a 2-point conversion. Otherwise, we might be looking at a different final score there. Bengals beat the Bills. I think the Bengals are back. I honestly do think the Bengals are back. 24-18, they took the Bills on Sunday night. And then the Chargers took care of the mess that is the New York Jets. 27-6 on Monday night. So anything you got looking at the NFL scoreboard there, anything you got for those Sunday/Monday games?
Yeah, I just want to point out the Texans, their kicker got hurt, and guess who stepped in? Former Wisconsin running back Daria Gumbawale. I thought that was pretty cool. He even made the go-ahead field goal when they were tied 30-30. I thought that was pretty cool. And then he has a boot for him. I mean, he had a touchback for him too. So that I thought that was just cool. But like you said, Bengals over Bills. I mean, um, I think the Bengals are doing pretty good. And I saw something that if the playoffs ended or if the regular season ended today, the whole AFC North would be in the playoffs. So um, that's kind of interesting considering you look at the Steelers and you might think that the Steelers aren't that good of a team, but I mean they're pulling out these wins. They're just finding a way to win. So good on their part. And yeah, um, it was overall a very good slate of football games. Happy for the Texans. You're Texans, I guess you could say, because you jumped on their boat. So they got a big win over the Buccaneers, and then I mean the Browns just demolished the Cardinals, like you said. Luckily, I have the Cardinals, or I have the Browns defense, and they gave me quite a few fantasy points right there. So I was happy about that. And then the Raiders, with the new interim head coach, they could be cooking with some gasoline over there. I mean, 30-6 over. I mean, not a good Giants team, but I mean their defense. I saw Max Crosby. He played 100% of the defense snaps, and he looked like he still has some energy after the game. I mean, you saw. I don't know if anyone saw the locker room celebrations after that, but he looked excited, and it seems like there's a new culture in their locker room after. Uh, I think it's Josh McDaniels left there. So, um, yeah, good. And then the Chargers just absolutely demolished the Jets. Jets don't really have an offense there, so yeah, tough on them, and they're kind of hoping that Aaron Rodgers can get back at some point. I did see, uh, I think it was Derwin James talking to Aaron Rodgers at the end of the game. Derwin James asked Aaron Rodgers, "When are you going to be back?" And Aaron Rodgers said, "Give me a few weeks." So we could see a return in A-Rod there for the Jets, but as of now, the Jets are still in the dumpster.
They did show a video. He did chuck one like 50-some yards already. So that was impressive. His comeback is impressive, and we're seeing it in full fledged because he's going to let us know about it every single week on the Pat Mack Show.
Yep.
But one last thing. Do you remember Blake Martinez?
Yeah, number 50, and then he went to the Giants. Yep, I remember him.
He actually retired from football. And he started a Pokemon business, a Pokemon card selling business. He was into grading cards, selling cards, getting rare cards, everything in between. Well, apparently there was a scandal. Some company, he was selling them on Whatnot, and some company, or that company flagged him for possibly a scandal of spamming or, scamming people and everything in between. He actually brought in $8.3 million in revenue at this business. He made $672,000 off of one Pokemon card. So if you hate your day job, here's a new one for you. But he was apparently permanently removed in August from Whatnot for scamming buyers. He was accused of it. There was a big case, blah, blah. He is now back in the NFL. He's giving it a whirlwind again, and he's now back with Carolina. The Panthers signed him on to the practice squad. So just an interesting developing story there to see what could potentially come of Blake Martinez's career. There's an interesting news about a former Packer. But with that note, that is about all we have for today. It's been awesome chatting with you guys. We will be back tomorrow with an interview with a pretty darn good wrestler from UW Lacrosse. Nolan Hurdle is going to be joining the show tomorrow. So if you got a chance, check that thing out. Share us with your friends. Get us out there. Let us know. Follow us on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you on Facebook. Just search Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We have them both. We'd love to hear from you guys. Hear some of your opinions and everything in between. And also, like I said, spread the news. Get us out there a little bit. Let people know that you listen to the show and that you think they should be tuning into it, because we love to hear from you guys and to have you guys listening to us. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. It's been awesome talking with you guys. But until tomorrow, deuces.